Everyone, we are live on Zoom and Facebook. Thank you very much for joining us today on this wonderful program. This is Solving Gender Inequality using Blockchain. As usual, your anchor is Rebecca Fernandez, and today is looking so bright and she has many guests. So, Rebecca, thank you very much. You're welcome.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Lee, for that lovely introduction, as always. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today in our sixth program, Solving Gender Inequality by Using Blockchain Technology, live on Coin News Extra as every 2 Thursdays. As Lee mentioned, today I have a beautiful and amazing guest with me. I have Eliane. Hi, Eliane. How are you doing?
Hello. Great, Rebecca. Good to be here.
We have also Achille. Hi, Achille.
Hello, Rebecca. Good to be here as well.
Good morning for you guys. We have Genevieve. Hi, Genevieve. How are you doing?
Thank you. Hi. Hello, everyone.
And we have also Joel. Hi, Joel. Good afternoon.
Hi, everyone. Thank you.
So, because today we are a lot of people, I would like to you guys to present yourselves, of course, of what you do, your background, to the people in a very short, just to give a short insights to the viewers, just to know better about you, and then we can carry on with the topic. So, if you can kindly start, Eliane.
Okay, so I'm Eliane Ubelijoro. I'm the Deputy Executive Director for Programs for Global Open Data in Agriculture and Nutrition. I'm also Professor of Practice for Public-Private Partnerships at McGill University. I'm a member of Rwanda's Science and Technology and Innovation Advisory Council, as well as a member of the Presidential Advisory Council of Rwanda and a Fellow of the African Academy of Sciences. And so it's a pleasure for me to be here with all of you today.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine and ours. Thank you so much, Eliane. So we can continue with Achille, which I think is also your brother, isn't it?
Yes. So I am the brother, or I should say, I am the brother of Eliane. So I wear many hats, but I'm here as mainly as the program director for a task force that we started, which is called Africa Diaspora Fights Coronavirus. In my normal life, I am a project management, program management consultant specializing in the PLM industry. I've also been recently elected on the board of PMI Montreal, which is the largest francophone chapter for the Project Management Institute worldwide. And I'm also one of the founding members of the Rwandan Professionals Forum here in Canada. So happy to be with everyone here.
Wow, impressive. Thank you so much, Achille. And right now also we move to Genevieve. How are you? Thank you for being here today.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Geneviève Léveillé. I am the CEO of AgriLedger, and AgriLedger is a blockchain organization, company, which is implementing a solution in the agricultural value chain. And we have just completed a project we're in the midst of a pilot in Haiti, working with the government of Haiti and the World Bank, and we're looking at several applications also in Africa and also in Latin America.
Thank you so much. And we have our last guest, Joel. Can you please present yourself?
Okay, my name is Joël So. I'm a startup agent and a professional coach. I'm based in Senegal and in France. I propose startups or startuppers for any job involving innovation, digitalization, and technology. I generally work with corporate, public services, international organizations, and all innovative companies. Since 2018, I get involved into the startups and digital ecosystem in Africa, specifically in West Africa. And my main goal is to find and support the startups who will drastically change the face of our African countries. I'm also the co-founder of Gucci. Gucci is a company based in Toulouse, in France. For Gucci, I am an agent who will propose startups for all your open innovation approach. So I get involved in sourcing, training, consulting, and project management. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that introductions. It's really an honor to have you all in here today, and especially because all of you are doing a lot of work and in Africa, and I guess that's very relevant for today's program, because as you know, Connews Extra are based in Nigeria, and we are doing this collaborative project with them. So I would like to maybe start with you, Eliane, to maybe give us an insight of maybe related to your background and the work you are doing in Africa, maybe more in the policies type of approach, or what is your view about the situation and what it is needed to be improved?
Okay, great. So thank you very much, Rebecca. So we're at an interesting time in history with COVID raging globally. And so what's really important right now to realize is the space of the fourth industrial revolution, digitalization, blockchain, AI, big data are all evolving at such a rapid rate that policy making is very difficult. Because part of it is how do you let the innovation ecosystem evolve on its own in a way that is not restrained, but also how do you bring in the needed regulatory framework to ensure ethical compliance, to ensure that the most marginalized are involved, and to ensure that there is a certain level of monitoring happening in the system. And so what is really interesting is we live in the time where the expression now is data is the new gold. But if data is the new gold, how do we harness it? I think one of the recent expressions that I heard was if data is the new gold, but it's flowing like water, do we have the infrastructure, the faucet to allow it to flow in ways that we can control and we can use effectively? And so the capacity globally for countries to have the needed infrastructure is very, very, very varied. And so we're at an age where it's not about whether you have literacy in terms of being able to read and write, but what is your capacity to have digital literacy and connectivity globally. And in the age of COVID-19, what is really important, and I think is critical to understand, especially from a gender point of view, is how do we stay connected in a world where there are shutdowns, where there are social distancing measures, where we are asked to minimize our movements in the world, but how do we ensure that data and goods continue to flow in the safest way possible? And also for governments, it's how do we deal with this new digital world where a lot of the financing that is happening in terms of digital transaction is outside of their control. So the discussions around digital currencies are happening everywhere, and policies are being developed as we speak, as governments deal with companies coming in and proposing new solutions, and things are evolving at such an accelerated rate that some part of it is really observe and come in slowly to ensure that the innovation space isn't stifled. But at the same time, it's really important to see how do we ensure that this playing field is equitable and that the challenges that we're facing globally are being addressed, especially the challenges that face women, and specifically women in the developing world. So what we know in terms of the data is that blockchain is a dominantly a male field. And this is really this, all the ICT space has that issue. But particularly in blockchain, we know that about only 14% of people in startups are women, and that very few are within the C-suite. It's great that we have Geneviève, who's a CEO here. I'm very excited to have to hear from her later. And so what that means are the issues that women in the developing world are struggling with are not being addressed by most of the people who are working in this most innovative space that's here to promote distributed leadership, to promote value-based exchanges globally, as well as to connect us all globally. As a member of the diaspora, I know how expensive it is to send money back to Africa. And I'm a member of a number of associations, and what I realize is when I have to send money, sometimes the fees when I go through my bank, the fees can be almost as high as the transfer that I have to renew membership or to pay for something. And what is really interesting for me as digital currency, as blockchain is evolving, is how are we going to make it cheaper to be able to transact globally? And that is a real game changer, because if you think about it, let's say you're paying 5-10% fee transferring money, and you're a merchant in Côte d'Ivoire. If you could bring that down to 0.1%, that's a significant increase in income and the possibilities of that added income you have to be able to transact, to invest more in your business, to invest more in connectivity. And what's interesting for me is how digitalization is reaching the most far-fetched corners of the world. So one example I love is a program in the Sahel that connects pastoralists, so people who are nomads, to the global economy, and allows them to exchange on where are the water points, do they have animals or goods they want to sell at a certain place? And so they're able to connect with each other and share information and really be able to transact in ways that they couldn't before. And one of the things that's important to know is when smallholder farmers, there are over 570 million smallholder farmers in the world. And when these smallholder farmers have access to digitalization, to digital technology, so they have access to market price, to climate data, and to data that can help them in terms of manage the inputs they do in agriculture, this easily increases their income by 30%. If you think about it, many African countries have about 70% of their population working in agriculture, but they only represent 30% of the GDP. If you could have incomes of all of these smallholder farmers increase by a minimum of 30%, that would make an amazing difference to the GDP. And especially now we have issues of good flows. We have issues of countries worried about exporting food, as we don't know how long this COVID crisis is. It becomes more and more important for farmers to be very productive locally and to really allow local economies to thrive. Ideally, now with the African Free Trade Agreement, what we want is we want goods to be flowing all over the continent. However, we want that to be done as safely as possible. And so this is where it's really important to see how can digitalization ensure that we have standards across Africa that ensure that goods can flow, that issues at borders are standardized in a way to minimize tariff barriers so that we do not close down the economies. We live in a world today where we have 820 million people who go hungry every day. We have over 2.7 billion people who are food insecure. So digitalization can be a really critical tool to improve their livelihoods and allow them to connect to global economies.
Yes.
Okay.
That was an amazing introduction and summary, and you touched base amazing points in there, Eliane, about digitalization, the secureness, the fairness, the bring trust, the increase of a female ecosystem, how it will increase the GDP. And this is something that we are touching base in our programs, because just touching base about gender inequality, for example, if we reach the gender parity, because according to the World Economic Forum, it will take us 100 years, it could add 11.5 trillion to the global GDP by 2028. So you're talking about agriculture and the percentage of people in this case working in Africa, and what is the percentage of GDP added value. And as you mentioned, security and safety. I will touch base this with Attila and also with Genevieve and Joel, but they are core features of as blockchain. So that's why is one of the perfect, I will say, technology for countries in Africa. So thank you for that, Eliane. And Attila, now we go from you. What is your view about this, and what do you think in terms of enablement?
Yes. So me, I come from the perspective of enabling technology. My expertise has been in as a project manager, as a program manager. It's about really making things happen. But in order to do that, I need people like Eliane who tell me, what is the playing field? What is the game that we're playing? Is it baseball? I'll summarize. I'll make it a bit simple. Is it baseball? Is it soccer? Is it hockey? So this is the regulatory framework. Then I'll need people like Genevieve who are going to explain to me the technology. What are the capabilities of the technology? What are the pitfalls of the technology? What do I need to think about in terms of the stakeholders? How they're going to be, how are they going to benefit? How do we need to involve them? Potentially, what are the use cases that we're trying to address? And then based on all of that, and also people like Joel are going to tell me, Achille, this is the ecosystem. This is, often we say the map is not the territory, right? So people like Joel that are on the ground, that are talking with the startups, that are talking with the entrepreneurs, they have like a keen sense of, this is what's possible. This is the resources. This is the skills, the competence that we have on the ground. And then you can start implementing and working with people to enable all that possibility. Because as Eliane just said, we're talking huge numbers in terms of the impact for the continent, right? Even like the 30% that Eliane is talking about in terms of increasing output for our economies, specifically in the agricultural domain, that's incredible for someone who's living on possibly less than $1 a day, right? So 30% is huge for that person. And there's tools also in terms of how we do it, right? Those of you that are familiar with project management methodology, there's been a lot of evolution because of the speed of change in technology, right? So now, which means that now you have to adapt, you have to be able to understand the problem you're trying to solve quickly. You have to have teams that are really flexible and deploy things, and as they say, fail fast, fail early, so that you can course correct and making sure you're hitting the target, right? And this is my this is what I want to be able to enable across the continent, working with all the different stakeholders that I just talked about. Project management is for me is the tool to enable tomorrow in terms of getting things done and getting them done, hitting the target, and it's a tool, it's a skill that is, I won't say easy, but people in Africa, in French they say débrouillard, it's the people make things work, right? If you give them the tools to make things work better, faster, cheaper, again, the impact is going to be incredible. So this is what I, and I'll let Genevieve now tell us about the actual technology, its capabilities. And so I can understand how I can, enable that in Africa, on the continent, or as bridge between the continent and North America.
Yes, good point in there, Attila. I think there is a phrase that says, if you don't plan, you plan to fail. And that's exactly what, and actually agile type of working, right? That we need to
exactly
to do a few iterations, test the market, and of course, very important to set the tone, what Eliane was saying before, and to understand the market, the policies, where we are going to start, what is the need that needs to happen first, and then make that plan. And now we move into the technology, how we fit that technology, and I guess Genevieve can tell us very well about that.
Yes, so thank you. And Achille, you are needed, because one of the things I would say has been my Achilles heels. I'm sorry.
A good transition.
A good transition has been the lack of a clear project management.
Okay.
And so if I have my lessons learned, that has been from there. That doesn't mean that we haven't tried to apply, but we've had to be more agile than I care to be so. Because what happens is, and this is where the issue comes in technology, is as a technology company, even though, because I have, like you, about 25 years of being a project manager, I wanted to project manage them, but we need somebody on top to basically kick everybody's butt, even mine, if I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do, but making sure all the information is coming in. So I would just like to say that we have probably, in my view, almost run a miracle in Haiti. And because I think that there has been many, in the last 18 months, there have been many things which technically shouldn't have made this happen. So for those of you who don't know, Haiti has been in lockdown actually since November 2018. So what we're suffering as a world is something that was a reality, and it went into a complete lockdown in September 2019, so about almost a year ago. They were on their ways to pick up the first shipment, and the people who were actually going were kidnapped. And so we had to pull back and say we were not going to run what was going to be an MVP in the wild. Instead, we did it in the lab. So we spent the next 3 months refining the software through using Zoom and WhatsApp and all these kind of communication, to then be able to test the software to make sure it was doing what was necessary. And why I bring up the concern is, like, because we didn't have one person on top, which was a real project manager, not everybody was showing up when they were supposed to. But I learned, you send emails when you ask the questions, you document it. We have document up to hell. And then if we have to change it, which we're doing now, we do so. But I'd like to say, through that, in February 2020, we had the first run, which was the pineapple run. And that was the test to see how it would go. And then we conceived the idea at the end of March of going live, but Mother Nature didn't have the same idea in two ways. One, the trees weren't ready, so by mid-April was when it was ready. And as we know, that was also at the height of the COVID crisis, which meant that the US government had to also say that fruits were going to be something that could be imported. So finally, on May 1st, which for me, was very key, because that was the day of the labor. They started the labor and bringing the first mission. So there was in total 6 missions. That meant about 38 to 40,000 kgs of mango. And the idea had been to also look to enroll more farmers. And just for the mechanics, this is really about, and for me, I love technology. I'm a geek when it comes to technology. But I also think that innovation is not about building new things. It's taking what you have, looking at design thinking. So how do people react? What is necessary for them? And then adapting your technology accordingly. So May 1st, we went live. So in one of the mission, about half of the mangoes were burnt because there was an electricity failure, and they were all in the water, so they got fried. So what we do is we look at creating quality. So I think that we need to. So one of the things that I have a concern with is sometimes trying to get farmers to actually produce more. Let's get what they produce. Let's get them a fair price. Let's make sure there's fair and clear distribution across the line. Based on the amount of work you do means how much you get. So if you're providing transportation, is going to be the biggest cost. So that's fine. But as long as we all know what it is, but if the transformation service is not working, then we need to adjust. What I like to say is the best thing about this is that as a result of this mission, they've now started implementing the avocado value chain into Haiti. And that is the first time that there is going to be a really connected, concerted effort in transportation of food. And when it comes to, the whole food issue, one of the things I'm starting to talk with a lot of organizations and countries about is how do we get our farmers to actually grow food to feed our people so that our GDP is not affected by having to import it from elsewhere. Because one of the numbers I look at when I look at Haiti is producing about 1.2 billion in food. This is FAO numbers. However, 25 million only is getting exported, and $940 million worth of food is imported into the country. If we can just reduce the amount of import by using what is produced, then we can shift, because part of what's happening is the food is not getting where it needs to be. And this is where blockchain technology helps you. And it's just part of the infrastructure which goes into this data aspect, in that you now can look at data and say, what am I producing in-house in my country? How much of it can I use, and how much of it do I need to import? And also, if I'm producing something which is getting exported, what are the needs of the community? So for me, blockchain is really the infrastructure. And this is why it's important to really look at the 4IR. And for me, 4IR is identity, it's data, which gets you into AI and machine learning, and bringing that in. And one last thing I want to say is, in Haiti, my farmer doesn't have a smartphone. He has a phone. He can receive messages to tell him when he's to come, where he is to go. He gets a message to tell him how much he delivered and how much he signed the contract for, when it leaves the country, when it's sold, and how much money he gets into his bank account. And that's what's important. We don't all want to be sitting on a computer looking at email and looking at a balance. I just want to know my goods have arrived, my money is arriving.
Yeah, very true what you said. Thank you for that, Genevieve. And it is very true what you mentioned about digitalization. The people sometimes get mistaken on that, and they think that you need to have, you need to, as you mentioned, a laptop, or you just need to be digital and think digital with the resources that you have and the needs that you have. And then you touch base about blockchain, and I do agree on that, because it brings transparency, traceability, and secureness for, especially in your area with agriculture and this tracking of the goods. So it was thank you for that. So now I guess we can touch base with you, Joel, in terms of this startup ecosystem that are in the continent, and you can give us your view on this, Joel.
Okay, I can speak about the day-to-day work of startups, leaders, and experts in the technology, in the blockchain technology. And I will focus on the gender aspect, specifically in West Africa and in Senegal, because I'm in Senegal and I can say what is really the activities around the blockchain. So concerning the woman, we have only one leader Vinata Ngom, who is very interested about the blockchain technology. When we have
she switched on.
Hi, Joel. You are mute.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
We have one woman really who directed Tezos company here in Senegal. Her name is Bidota Gob. And when we have many men who can talk about blockchain, that is the first point. Why? I think in the woman, the gender side, there is a lack of interest, a lack of information. There is no real programs for women concerning blockchain. In 2019, we have only 2 students, 2 women who has presented their graduation on blockchain. We don't really have, in terms of education, a real impact concerning this technology. At the University of Dakar, l'UCAD, we have one professor who directs the direction of cryptography, Mr. Jibril Sow, and there is no woman in his course. We have on the community some meetups, some seminars, some partnership with Tezos France, but we don't have really a big activity on blockchain here. And in terms of regulation, it's a real concern for me, because there's no regulation, there's no legal statute about blockchain, so we can't. The evolution around this technology is not good enough in the gender side, but many things are happening around Africa, and in the Anglophone side, we have Nigeria, South Africa, Zimbabwe, Namibia, Kenya, Ghana, and Tanzania. We have among the top countries leading in peer-to-peer Bitcoin transactional trades. We have many transactions in these countries. On terms of infrastructure, what we can say is the Anglophone side is more, how do we say it in English? We have more is more developed in the Anglophone side. In terms of progress around the blockchain technology, we have since 2017 a big seminary named Les Avancées de la Cryptographie en Afrique, the progress of cryptography in Africa, where all the professors, the experts, and the leader on blockchain meet 1 year at a time on that. That's what I can say. There is no legal system, there is no regulation, but what we have to know is blockchain can change radically our national banking system, our agriculture, our education, all we have about the land registry, our patent, because with blockchain we have more traceability, more security, more transparency, and data integrity. That's why we have to be the voices who can push blockchain and push the students to be very aware about this technology.
Yes, fully agree with that, Joel. Thank you so much. And you touch base also very good points, that is to create awareness. And especially in Senegal, you mentioned that there is there is very few women that have a knowledge, as you mentioned, and you touch base about we need to create, you said about there is lack of information, there's lack of interest. And I think that's something that we need to build up. And you said as well that there's not a lot of meetups and programs. So as mentioned, we need to be the voices. And I'm sure that what we're doing with CoinNews Extra with this program could help, but also we need to, of course, and with your presence today, I think we can add more value to it. So
Genevieve wants to say something.
Of course.
Yes, so I think that one of the things that I would also suggest is really looking to educate the government, fractions of government and the financial system. Because when we call it blockchain, everybody thinks that it is the Bitcoin, and they start wondering if you're looking to create a new financial system. What we need to really start, and this is why I am, there are days when I don't say it very well, but I love working with the Haitian government because it has been an education with them to understand, no, we're not bringing in new currency, we're bringing information that can help you with working with your constituents. And I think that even also in Africa, there's two issues going on. There's the issue of remittance. How do you get money to move around? How do you get that flow of money, which needs to be very separate from what we're trying to do, which is to create assurance of what has happened, what is meant to happen, and who has participated, which then drives who gets paid. So if we can start getting people's head around that, then we can start moving the modicum, because we get caught into this coin thing.
Actually, if I may, I think it's not just governments. Honestly, I'm an engineer, but I have to admit my knowledge of blockchain or is limited. I'm an engineer, so I think we collectively as a society need to be educated on blockchain. To understand what are the different use cases that this technology can be applied to, right? And what are the implications of that technology? If someone was able to, present a simplified view of what blockchain is, then people will, people have an amazing capabilities in terms of innovation. Joel was talking about that as well. Once they understand what that technology is all about.
So can I say, the farmers got it. I said, you're going to get paid, and nobody's going to be able to take your money. So we need to make it really simple. So in April 2019, I was sitting in Artibonite with a group of farmers, and I explained to them what the technology was about, but not trying to explain this spreadsheet or whatever. You give it to us, we mark it down, you get a message about it, you prove it's yours. Bingo. And guess what? When the money flows back to them, they go, oh yeah. So this is where we need to make it where use cases are simple. It's not about and when we try to move money, I go like, do I care? I don't have any money to move. So why do I want to do that? But, you're going to make sure I get paid on time. You're going to make sure my contract is taken. So we need to make it to that. We need to really speak to different people about this. But the reason why I say government sometimes is because if I explain it to you and you decide you don't like it, and you go to the government and say, she's doing some magic here, some black magic here, she's taking my money, then I might get shut down. So it's all around. We need to have that education. The same way, many of us at the beginning didn't know how to use our phones, because when we didn't have mobiles, we didn't know how to use them. So it is a learning that we need to all to do. And as I think also we need to simplify the message for everyone. And as Joël, I think part of the problem is we haven't done it enough in French. We are still talking blockchain a lot in English. And so we need to make sure that the language is internationally understood.
May I
Yes, sure.
say something? We need the government, we need them, but we need to say also that our activities, our current activities, will change in 5 or 10 years, and we will not have the same activities, the same competencies, the same talents. Blockchain will change the activities of how do we say notaire
notary, the notaries,
the notaries, the advocates, the
lawyers,
many activities will change about due to the new technology. So we have to be careful and to advertise the government, the leaders, the experts, that we don't have to have many fears about changes, because there is no turning back. The changes, we are facing changes, and we have to be part and to take an important part in this revolution, especially in the continents. And if we don't advertise and discuss about all that with the makers, so the authorities, the legal system, the ecosystems, and all the makers, we will be always out of the game. So, and everybody tells us that it's time for Africa. It's our time. It's time for everything. So we have to take the time. We have to take really the time for that in order to have a better education system, a better agriculture system, a better economy. So many work has to be done to be sure that the understanding of emerging technology has a real impact in our economy, in our performance, and in our growth.
Yes, fully agree with that, Joël. Thank you so much. Do you want to add anything, Eliane?
Yes, well, I was just thinking, so Rwanda's Minister of ICT is a woman. The director of the Fourth Industrial Institute in Rwanda is a woman. I mean, the African Institutes of Mathematical Sciences and all their programs have 30% women in their programs, whether, you know, all their programs, including the machine learning and AI. So part of it is, how do we prepare a new generation of female scientists to move forward? So Princeton just had the first female African mathematics professor just joined, and you know, that was a big thing. And so part of it is, how do we ensure that for young girls out there, they see women who look like them in these fields? And so Rwanda is working on it. And Geneviève is leading programs in terms of blockchain training programs. And so you know, Geneviève can talk about that. I think she's being very modest in her sharing. And one of the things I just wanted to add is that she's increased farmer incomes by 6 times. 6 times. So that's way more than that 30%. And the 30% is a minimum. And so just think about that. If we could increase GDPs 6 times because we're ensuring flow of goods effectively. In some cases in post-harvest management, losses are up to 90%. If logistics allowed us, I mean, the upside of using fair value for fair work is so powerful that it's something that we really need to harness, especially in
and 10 in Africa. And I want to get to where we have more. One of the things that though I wanted to make sure was key, it wasn't to get 10 random women coming in, but 10 ladies coming in as a cohort to be able to share the experience. And then take what we have done also is that they have all pledged 4 hours for a year to support both in training project to really and the idea is for them to share and to be able to talk about how they've gone through the journey. And I've already told Consensus that I want another 10 to 20 next year. So this is just starting. The next thing is really getting IBM and Corda, which is where we've built our platform, to do the same. I think that if we can get, they have 100 in Consensus, if we can get another 300 women trained, that doesn't mean they're all going to be developers, but at least there's going to start an understanding so that they can explain what is this blockchain thing that we're doing. The other thing is that, as Elaine said, what we're trying to do is to do the assurance of the goods. So sometimes I don't think I'm really agriculture because I don't look to increase yield, but I look to how do we guarantee that the seed is good? How do we make sure that the right chemicals or lack of chemicals exists, and that also the origin. So those are key things that we need to do to then create that trust and to create. And we are looking at Africa to be able to do for herself. I think the AFT is the biggest thing ever, the biggest opportunity, where basically it would create this money. And we talk about startups, seed, growth, and this is what a farmer needs to do. So if we can get capital, which is sitting idle, to go toward this, if we can provide a technology which gives the assurance to the buyers that everything has been done, these are key. But to me, I actually say it's like water, creating a well. If I build a well somewhere in a community, but I don't teach them how to maintain that well is going to go bad in a couple of years. So we need to make sure that the language and the know-how is also local.
Yes, fully agree with that. Fully agree. An amazing work that you are currently doing, Genevieve. And hopefully this female population will also increase. And do you want to add anything at Chile? I don't know if you want to.
Well, no, I mean, it's amazing to hear what everyone here on the panel is discussing. And, you can sense the opportunity about the application of these new knowledge areas.
Yes.
And now our challenge, I think, as a community is to see how this can be enabled via different ways, whether it's private enterprise, whether it's diaspora members getting together and pulling their competence and skills together to try to do things. So this is our next challenge, I guess, to make this work, and so that it's going to benefit our peoples.
Yes.
Across the continent, and specifically women, because again, you are the majority in this world, and specifically in Africa. If we can change outcomes for women in Africa, it's going to be a game changer for the rest of the world.
Absolutely, fully agree with that. And as mentioned, I just want to add that from my perspective, and I think you guys will agree on this, blockchain is the perfect technology for Africa. It brings trust, traceability, and transparency. It's not about Bitcoin, as Genevieve well mentioned. So Bitcoin is the first application that was made by using blockchain technology, but blockchain is more than that. It's really a change in the system. It's a systematic change. Because 2 weeks ago, Kamala Harris was talking about systematic racism. We know that exists in the world. So blockchain, apologies for this, blockchain will bring transparency. I will make our system flat. And countries like Africa, some countries in Africa, in other emerging countries, will be in the same, I will say they wouldn't be left of the occasion, as Eliane was saying. It will be a fairness, I guess, world. And that's something that we need to work on. And hopefully, all together, we can make it happen, hopefully.
All right, great.
So I don't know if anyone has anything to add before we close.
Yes, so I just wanted to follow up with what Genevieve was saying in terms of, training 300 women. They don't need to all have to become developers. Some can become entrepreneurs. Some can become policymakers. Some can become educators and trainers. So the thing is, there are multiple ways that knowledge can be used, and we need people with science background in all sectors. Yes. And so, and this is what's so interesting in terms of Genevieve's background, because she's worked in the banking sector, and a lot of what she's worked on, and her leadership in blockchain has allowed her to see how this could be expanded to so many fields. Agriculture, she also has some applications in health. And this is really what we need. We need decision makers and leaders that are grounded in science, but able to use that for social good, for improving human capital, for social capital, and for natural capital. So we need to see how can all of this be used for the betterment of humanity, to fight climate change, to look at ways we're doing all our work more sustainably, and we're contributing to decreasing greenhouse gas emissions. So all of this interconnects. And this is what is so exciting for me. It's how these platform technologies can really transform our relationships with each other as humanity in terms of social justice, and our relationship with nature in terms of how do we ensure that we allow exploration of biodiversity and we ensure that there are no pandemics. So all of it is connected. And so that's what is so exciting about me. And transparency in terms of ending corruption globally. That is something that is very exciting in terms of the potential for blockchain.
Yes, thanks so much, Eliane. Do you want to add anything, Genevieve, before we close? You're on mute, Genevieve.
Sorry, I like to not make sure, make sure I'm making too much noise. But it's been a great pleasure. And for me, what there's been a bit of a delay in what we wanted to do in Africa because COVID has really changed focuses. But I think that the biggest, and that's why I thought this is a great opportunity to at least look to train. And I'd like to really work on doing that and working and getting more women engaged, because you know what though, I like to get more women engaged is one level, but it's about really getting more youth engaged, because somebody corrected me the other day and said that one of the problems that we also have is the disengaged youth, young men who are not able to participate in society, and therefore because they do not think that they have a future. So if we can look to also educate them and bring them in that journey, then we can then make sure that we are able to define our future, or those individuals are able to define their future. It is time for Africa to lead herself into the next century, and really making a difference at home and not waiting for somebody else to give it to us.
We'll agree on that. Yeah, that's I guess that's the best way to end this panel. It's our time. We need to
Yes.
we need to seize it.
Seize it.
Yep.
I can say the last word is Joseph Lubin, the CEO of Consensus, the top leader of firms on blockchain. He says that for those who understand the profound implications of blockchain technology, there is no turning back. So what we can say, there is no turning back also for Africa to be part of the global game and to be aware about all the emerging technologies and specifically about blockchain, who will resolve many issues that we have in many domains in Africa.
Thank you, Joel. And any last thought, Achille, before we close?
No, I just want to thank Eliane for connecting us with Geneviève and her amazing work in Haiti. And also I'd like to thank Joel, who is also a member of the Task Force for Africa Diaspora Fights Coronavirus. And we're looking to implement a permanent entity, but to address the global needs of the continent, leveraging the talents the talents of the diaspora and Friends of Africa.
Thank you, everyone. It was an amazing program. I'm very happy that every one of you can connect and maybe do beautiful things in Africa, because as mentioned, it's the time right now and there's no turning back, and it will be good and amazing, and blockchain can make that change. So I'm very happy for this, and thank you so much. It has been an honor. For everyone who is watching us, we will be again on the 17th of September. So thank you, everyone. Have a lovely morning and afternoon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Rebecca.